Excellent. Let's go ahead and begin. To ensure that all participants can hear the audio today, I will mute all verbal conversation. Again, if you would like to ask a question during the course of the presentation, please locate the chat bubble on your toolbar at the top, and please feel free to type any questions that you may have. We do have Marquita on the chat window who is serving as our co-presenter today, so please feel free to shoot her any questions and she'll be more than happy to respond to you. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The Georgia Department of Education and the Georgia Career Information Center have partnered together to provide access to the Georgia Career Information System, GCIS, and the administration tools to every public middle school and high school in the state of Georgia. As a new middle school site coordinator, you'll have an opportunity to use the administration tools to support your career advisement efforts at your middle schools. During today's presentation, we'll have an opportunity to explore the administration tool's basic website layout, see how to manage student portfolios, we'll learn about the middle school advisement milestones, and also learn how to generate their respective reports. In addition to participating in today's session, I would encourage you to visit our YouTube page to watch some of the other related webinars, such as GCIS for the new middle school users. It, too, will give you some excellent pointers on how you can implement GCIS successfully at your middle schools. So let's begin by visiting the Administration Tools page. And just as a brief overview, the Administration Tools is a management resource system designed to help administrators, counselors, teachers, career advisors, and others who engage in serving the students, helping them to organize and manage individual student portfolios in GCIS. These tools can be used to view aggregate site usage reports, create your portfolios, organize your students into groups, retrieve their usernames, reset them. You can send messages, customize features. There's a whole host of different items that you can do with the administration tools, including generating the career advisement milestone reports for the Georgia Department of Education. So to access your administration tools, you would go to the following URL. It is www.gcic.peachnet.edu. And once you arrive at that particular URL, this will bring you to the Georgia Career Information Center's home page. And when you arrive at that page, you'll see that it kind of looks like it's divided into three columns. We're going to focus our presentation on that upper left-hand corner of that first column where it says, click here to enter Georgia Career Information System. And I'm simply going to click on that image. And when I click on that image, I will arrive at a page that will request a username and password. And since we are engaging in the administration tools, this is where you would need to have that particular username and password handy. To obtain your school's administration tools username and password, you must be designated in writing as your school's GCIS site administrator. This designation can be set by your superintendent, by your CTAE director, director of student support services, or even your principal. And once we obtain that written confirmation that you are the school administrator, we can then release that username and password to you. Once we give you that username and password, you can elect to share that with your other colleagues, or you can create what are called staff accounts where you set up their own username and password while maintaining the primary administration tools username and password. So for today's presentation, I'm going to go ahead and enter mine. And once you were to enter your username and password, you would click Sign In, and it will offer you an opportunity to respond to 2 security questions. So let's say that you forgot your administration tools password, you can actually elect to have that password or a temporary password sent to your email address, which would allow you to go in with your standard admin username and the temporary password, which will then allow you to reset it to a permanent state. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and click Skip. So it'll take me directly to our presentation. So on this page, we will actually begin by looking at the basic layout of your administration tools to familiarize you with the various elements that you have in your hands. So I'm going to start on the upper left-hand corner where you see what is called our logo. So it says Georgia Career Information System Administration Tools. This is one of the ways that you can differentiate whether you're logged in as a student or whether you're logged in as an administrator. You always want to look in that upper left-hand corner to see what does the logo in fact say. And your school's name will be on the right-hand side of the screen. So in this case, the name of my school is John Doe Middle School East. And again, your school will appear up there, and you will see that it'll say comma and your title. So site administration, yet another key way to know that you are in administration tools versus the student side of the system. Continuing at that very top of the screen, you'll see that we use the generic name site for all users within our system. So if you were to hover over that little site designation on that right-hand side, you'll see that it's actually a little drop-down menu, and you have what are called the account settings. And when you click on the account settings, you'll see it'll actually allow you, if you are the site administrator, it will allow you to enter your first name and your last name. You can enter your email address. And again, if you were already designated as your site administrator, you could actually, this information will actually already appear there for you. And this is just another opportunity for you to change your security questions and align your answer to whatever your new questions are that you include. Immediately to the right of the name of the administrator, you have your messaging board. And when I click on messages, it will actually allow me to send messages to my students. Again, if you decide to set up staff accounts, you can send messages to your cohorts or your colleagues, or even if you have administrators within the system, you'll be able to communicate with them within the system. And then the last thing that you have in that upper right-hand corner is you have log out. So whenever you're finished with your navigation and completing information within the system, you always want to log out because this is where student records are kept. So I am going to go up to the logo on the upper left-hand corner, and when I actually click on that logo, what this in fact does is it takes me back to the very first page. So as you start navigating through the various components of the administration tools, sometimes you just want to go back to the first page. You can click on that logo and it will take you back to square one, your dashboard. Another way that you can navigate back to this first page is you can always click on that house on that left-hand side, and again, it will return you to the dashboard area. On your dashboard, you will actually have a series of tables, if you will, that will give you summary information of all of your records at your school. So the first table that you have represents the login activity at your school. And there are actually 3 types of logins that can occur. You can have a login to occur from a portfolio user, and typically these are your students. You can have logins that occur according to your site username, and each school has its own school-specific GCIS access username and password. And the third way that you can count logins would be according to staff members. Now, the most ideal situation to maximize usage of GCIS is that you want to have a significantly higher number of students logging in as portfolio holders than as site username holders. And the reason for that is that a portfolio is assigned to an individual student. It is his or her unique world, if you will, to access the GCIS. So they have their own username and password. They have an opportunity to explore the GCIS resource, and they also have an opportunity to save information from GCIS, again, simply by logging in using that portfolio username and password. With the site username and password, that only allows the opportunity for exploration. You would not be able to save information because it doesn't know who you are, so it can't tell one person from another. So you definitely want to have your portfolios established for each one of your students. And again, you can set staff accounts if you wish to maintain your site administrator rights with that one set of username and password. Setting up staff accounts and allotting them their own username and password would be the way to go. And so it's completely up to you how you want to structure who receives your site administration username and password. Please note that GCIC will not share this information with anyone other than you or someone at your central office. The next area is called our portfolio accounts. So under portfolio accounts, it actually tells you how many active portfolios that you have at your school. So how many students already have an account set up within your system. And a little bit later on in our presentation, I will show you how you can actually set up portfolios for your students if you have not already done so to date. You will, and just kind of as a caveat, you can have one portfolio user to log in 9 times, or you can have 9 portfolio users to log in 1 time each. So you will rarely have where the number of times that logins have occurred to equal the number of portfolios. So this is counting how many times a portfolio user has logged in. This section is counting how many portfolios exist at your site. And then the last table you have are modules with saved records. This is a really important section because this gives you a summary of how many students have completed a given activity. And you will see that it'll tell you the modules, and the modules are actually elements that your students can save within their portfolios. The second column will show all portfolios with a saved record. So if we're looking at this, the first row, you'll see that the first item is Career Cluster Inventory 80 Questions. And there's only one student in this school who has saved that particular item. And the last column shows, based on a specific date range, how many students have completed that information. So since August 1st, 2016, only one student has completed that element. And this will be very important for you as we start looking at the individual bridge milestones that your students are completing annually. If you look at the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see that there's this little button that's called Help in Tutorials. And when you click on Help in Tutorials, this would actually uncover a series of different videos that you may be able to watch, guides that you can click on that will help you to navigate through the structure of the administration tools. And so just different resources that will help you with implementation. And as you begin to become familiar with our system, you'll see that help and tutorials will appear in several areas throughout the administration tools as well as throughout GCIS as your students are navigating. Continuing on that right-hand side, you have what are called quick links. And these are just very quick ways to get to various elements within the system. So if you ever needed to quickly reset passwords without having to go through different steps to get there, you can simply click on that link and it will take you directly to that page. You can also find a portfolio. So if you have a student and you're quickly trying to locate his or her information, the Find a Portfolio feature would allow you to click on any one of characteristics such as last name, first name, their graduation year, and it will filter through all the portfolios inside of our system. Curriculum. Within GCIS, we not only use our system to meet the career advisement benchmarks as identified by the Georgia Department of Education, but you can actually use GCIS to even run an entire annual class because there's just that much content inside of here. So whereas the benchmarks focus on specific key elements that you have to meet, when you go into the curriculum, it'll actually address all of GCIS. So if you wanted to have your students to start learning about our career plan, you wanted them to start looking at post-secondary schools, or you want them to write a resume, there are at least 400 lesson plans already set up for you to have access. The next section is what are called tools for counselors and teachers. Here's where you can access worksheets. Here's where you can access PowerPoints. Here's where you can access implementation manuals, again, that will help you to fully implement the GCIS resource. And then we also have what is called the privacy statement. With GCIS, your students have an opportunity to share with the system how much information they want you as the administrator to be able to see what is going on within their portfolio. And it simply says, yes, my counselor or administrator can see everything that's going on in my portfolio, or no, they cannot see everything that is going on in my portfolio. As the site administrator, you can actually change that designation so that you will always be able to see all of your students' information. And it's just a simple click of a button, and you'll be able to, again, make that distinction for all of your students. And lastly, on your home page, you have announcements that rotate and show you different elements that you may want to view throughout the system. So again, just giving you some marketing strategies such as use the training manuals, and you'll see that I have 3. I'll go back to number 2. So use the training manuals, click on Tools for Counselors and Teachers, and click under the quick links. And so again, just quick areas to catch your eye to share with you that there are other resources that are occurring. So that's the basic of the dashboard. And again, if you have any questions, Marquita is over in the chat window, and she is more than happy to respond to any questions that you might have. I'm now going to talk about the bounty of our website, which actually occurs within this blue horizontal line at the top. You will see that you have different headers at the top, which are actually the names of different tabs that will unfold and show you different functions that you can perform within the GCIS administration tool structure. So the first tab that you have is the Bridge tab. And on this Bridge tab, we're actually going to spend a little bit of our time today to cover how to, 1, identify what the grade level activities are, and 2, how to run those individual reports. So this particular tab actually has 3 columns, and the first column is just a quick description of what you'll actually encounter as you're going through the Bridge tab. So on this particular tab, you will have an opportunity to look at column 2, which is your Bridge Law data entry. And what is very important for you as a middle school practitioner is that we're going to look at the student enrollment, and we're also going to look at the 8th grade course planner verification. The last column is actually where you can run real-time bridge law reports on your students' information. So again, we'll take a deeper look at that information. The next tab, which I will not cover, will actually be for CCRPI. And so for CCRPI in our system, prior to the merger with, prior to the partnership with Georgia Department of Education, we actually had an area for the elementary schools to denote which of the 17 career cluster lessons they were introduced to. So that's an element, again, that's for a different target audience, but just want to let you know that it does reside there. The next element that will be helpful to you would be the reports. So again, GCIS administration tools goes beyond just looking at the requirements as denoted by the Department of Education. You'll have an opportunity to run standard reports within our system. So this particular tab is divided into 4 sections. Again, similar to what we had on the Bridge tab, you'll have a description of what is occurring in that first column. Your second column has 3 sub-areas. You have what are called summaries, which are your overall site usage, and this actually mirrors the exact same thing that you saw on your dashboard. Your second element in that second column would be your favorites. So these are different elements where your students can actually stop inside of GCIS and save specific options such as their favorite occupations, their favorite career clusters, programs of study, so on and so forth. So again, places where your students will actually stop in the system, save information. In the administration tools, you can actually get a count of what those saved items are. Continuing down in that second column, you have stored files and links, and this is actually an opportunity to run reports on various elements that your students may have saved, such as they can upload an essay that they've written, they can upload a writing assignment, a PowerPoint presentation, or any assignment that they've received a grade on. They can upload that into our system, and they can also enter their frequently visited links so that you can see what they're actually looking at, and it may be an opportunity for you to share that same information with other students. And I see a great question on the side. Will the administration tool center look the same if your school is using GCIS Junior? The answer to that is yes. Yes, it will look very similar. The Reports tab will look different because it offers different elements. Great question on the sidebar. In your next column, you have sorting strategies where your students can actually go in, save either the financial aid sort, occupation sort, or school sort. And what's really cool about these elements are that you can actually see the individual students' outcomes as they have completed these items. You also have your planning tools. Again, another element, allow your students to look at their information. And lastly, and this one is very important at the middle school area, as several of these are earmarked as a part of your milestones, you can actually run reports on your students who have completed specific elements. So ones that I just want to quickly point out, and I'll go back and further in depth a little bit later in our presentation. 6th graders will have an opportunity to complete either the Career Cluster Inventory 48-question version, or they can create the 80-question version. 7th graders will have an opportunity to complete either the Interest Profiler 60 questions or the Reality Check. And again, we'll take a look at those a little bit more in depth in our presentation. Continuing at the top, you have what are called portfolios and groups, and you will spend quite a bit of your time in this area, as this is where you will manage your students' portfolios. You will have opportunities to reset passwords, You can access their portfolios, and I will show you how you can add portfolios either individually or how you can upload several at the same time. You have different management options such as hiding portfolios. You can transfer them to another site. You can merge them together if your student happens to have more than one portfolio, or you can do all of the tasks at one time and see everything that is available. You can manage hidden portfolios or even manage deleted ones. Since this is an introductory course, we won't be able to cover all of the advanced features, but I promise that there is another webinar that we have recorded that has more of those advanced components. We just want to make sure that you guys have the basics to get started today. And in that last column, you can put your students into groups, and these groups can be according to counselors. You may serve different portions of the student body. You guys may serve different grade levels. Again, just another way to quickly manage your information. And I'll skim over the next couple of items. So you can actually create other accounts. And so remember, I said earlier in our presentation, you may want to set up staff accounts for your colleagues if you, in fact, are the site administrator and you want to maintain your username and password as the primary site administrator. And then you also have an opportunity to customize your system, such as you can upload a course plan where you set the courses in which your students can select from drop-down menus. Again, we have a separate presentation that discusses that at length. And then finally, you have your help and links where you can see what's new and also revisit some of those elements. And if you're looking at the tab and also looking at the quick links, which are directly below, you'll see several of these are duplicated. All right, so I'm going to click on the house, and I'm on my dashboard. And I want to talk about something that is very important to all of you guys, and that is, what are the milestones for the middle school? And I have a slide set up just for you to denote exactly what are those milestones. So for the bridge law requirements at the middle school level, the first requirement, which I have not denoted on here because it actually applies to any of your grades at this point, the first element is that your students have to have a portfolio in our system for them to be counted in any of our reports. We just measure whether your students have a portfolio at the 6th grade level. So again, all of your students will need a portfolio in GCIS in order to meet the bridge requirements. The second element that I have denoted is that your 6th graders will have to complete either the Career Cluster Inventory 80-question version, or they will have to complete the Career Cluster Inventory 48-question version. So they have to do one or the other. I will share with you that the 80-question version has a younger reading level than the 48-question version. For our 7th graders, they have an opportunity to do either the reality check, which is an assessment, or the interest profiler 60-question version. Again, it's one or the other. And of course, you can assign both of them. Definitely okay with us. But again, to get credit, it's one or the other. The second thing that your 7th grade students will have to do is that they will have to save 3 career clusters. And as of a few years ago, Georgia expanded its number of career clusters to 17. All 17 career clusters are noted inside of GCIS. Your students will be able to select energy as one of the 17. Eighth grade students. Eighth grade students will have to save 3 occupations. And there are a whole host of occupations within our system. Now, career clusters and occupations are different constructs. Our career clusters are denoted by the extension, the physical phrase career cluster at the end of each one of those. The occupations are not. So when your students look in their occupation file, which will collect both the career clusters and the occupations, the students will only receive credit for career clusters when they save them in the 7th grade. Career clusters do not count as occupations. And in 8th grade, the students will receive credit for saving occupations. Career clusters are not occupations. Occupations are not career clusters. They are separate. So when you look at the report, please be sure to be mindful that those are 2 separate constructs in the report. Give me on your chat bubble if you'll type yes in the window if that makes sense. Career clusters are not occupations. Occupations are not career clusters. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So yes, please share with your students that career clusters will end in the designation career cluster so they're able to understand the difference between them. All right. And then the last one, which is a biggie, is that your 8th graders will have to do a 4-year individual graduation plan. And so, as many of you know, again, as middle school practitioners, you know that Bridge Law and CCRPI have the same mandates, they're just stated differently. So when you do your 2 assessments, let's say you do your first one in 6th grade and your second one in 7th grade, the CCRPI says how many of your students have completed 2 assessments by the conclusion of 8th grade. If they have been following through with their bridge activities, you should be able to definitively say, yes, my students have met that benchmark, and I have proof because I can show you in the administration tools. And the other benchmark that is the same is that the students have to have a 4-year plan. So if you're able to say yes on one definitively, you should be able to say yes definitively on the other as well. So you are knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone. How does that sound? All right. So now that we've covered the individual, absolutely. So yes, for the CCRPI requirement, it stipulates that 8th grade students need to have completed 2 assessments by the conclusion of their 8th grade year. So by the time they leave middle school. So if your students did an assessment in 6th grade, and in our case, career cluster inventory, 80 questions or 48 questions, our 7th grade requirement is that you do reality check or interest profiler. You should be able to definitively say, yes, they've completed their 2 activities. And the individual graduation plan is the same for Bridge as it is for CCRPI. And for further clarification, the Georgia Department of Education's website will show you the similarities between those 2. Awesome. So let's take a look at your Bridge report. We're going to spend more time on that tab. All right, there is a great question on the side regarding the system that you guys were using previously. The GCIS is a separate system. And if your students completed elements in GA College 411, and you have proof of that information, then you can submit that to the Department of Education. So I believe you were asked to download the reports from those components. There is no information that crosses between the two systems. I have had some sites to share with me that they're just going to start over using GCIS because they will be able to, with a clean heart, say, yes, my students in fact have 2 assessments. Yes, my students in fact have a course planner, and here is the proof of that information. Okay? So I'm going to hover over the Bridge tab so that I can show you the information for Bridge. And there was a question about what is the requirement for students that are nonverbal and non-readers. That we actually inside of GCIS, and I show this in the Introducing GCIS to New Middle School Users. I would definitely encourage you to watch that particular webinar. We show how you can convert GCIS from a visual component to a text-based item. And you may also want to speak with your school districts because they're addressing that differently, depending on your school districts, how they would want to move forward with your students. So definitely I would encourage you to speak with your central office to figure out how they plan to proceed with that. But that's a great question, Viewer 49. All right, hovering over the Bridge tab, elements that you will need to use inside of our system, you have what is called the Bridge Law Data Entry, and then you have the Bridge Law Report. The first thing that you will need to do when you come into GCIS in the administration tools is to set your student enrollment. Your student enrollment actually sets the denominator that will be used to calculate all of your reports. So to enter this information, you would simply go down to the word Edit toward the bottom of the table, and you will go to your SIS or whatever report you're pulling from and enter how many students you have in each one of your grade levels. So 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And some of you actually go to upwards to 9th grade, and so you can include, again, whatever grades represent your school. And you would click on Update, and you will see that GCIS will record the last date that your student enrollment was changed. Right? I'm going to go back up to the Bridge tab, and notice that Bridge is kind of gray, whereas the rest of it is blue. This is one of the indicators that lets you know which tab you are focusing on at this time. That was a great question. Do we need to change the numbers as kids come and go? Yes, you will want to update that information. You get to set the frequency for how often you update your student enrollment. I have some that elect to do it once a week. I have others that elect to do it once a month. So you get to set how often you want to change this number. But I would definitely encourage you to make sure that it is as accurate as possible so that you'll know where you stand. Going back up to the Bridge tab, the second thing that is going to be very important for my 8th graders is that our report is not only that the student need to have an individual graduation plan, but that it is verified. Okay? So the report is going to read the number of verifications, not just that they have one, but has it been verified. So I'm going to click on 8th grade course planner, individual graduation plan verification. And within my verification table, I will see all of my students. And if I have physically seen that my students have a 4-year plan, I can, with a clean heart, go down and check off those students who, in fact, have a plan that has been reviewed by me, by mom and dad, by whomever your school district has designated as a reviewer. And I will simply click on Save Changes. And notice when I click on Save Changes that over toward the right-hand side, you'll see that a date verified has appeared. So the date that you click on and say, yes, this student has been verified, that date will change accordingly. And so I had one person who was verified yesterday. I have 3 that I verified today. I may work with this other student later in the year, and once I click on that check mark and save changes, it will then include that specific date. Another thing that you can also see is the status column has changed as well. So if I've not verified it, it's in for no progress. So again, this does not necessarily state that your students don't have a plan. It states that it has not been reviewed. And so all 5 of my, and you can see there's a legend, so I have a total of 5 records. I have 4 students that have completed this information. I have 1 who has not completed this information. And what's really cool about this table is that you can actually reorganize these students according to any one of the headers. Type yes if that's pretty straightforward for you. That is, okay, someone says just to verify, I have to check off the students after they have completed their 4-year plan. Yes, after you have reviewed their plan and you are satisfied that it has been done correctly, or maybe at your school district it's mom and dad who have to verify that information, this is where you would check off that you have that verification. Let's head back up to the Bridge tab, and those are the only 2 places where you will enter information. Everything else will come directly from your students engaging in activities inside of GCIS. Okay? So the first activity under Bridge Law Reports are 6th graders who have a portfolio. And again, being that you guys are new to GCIS, all of your students will need a portfolio. And again, we'll talk about how to create those a little bit later. So I'm going to click on 6th grade portfolios. And so this should be an easy win for you, because if you are creating the portfolios, then you know that the students have a portfolio. And this is even if you're creating them individually or if you're creating them in batches. So again, a very quick way to get a quick 100. You will see on this report, it also states at the top what you're looking at, so you don't have to go back up to the Bridge tab right now. So 6th graders who have portfolios at John Doe Middle School East. This report is showing percent of 6th grade students who have created a portfolio, percent of students completed, 100, and it shows that my numerator represents the number of records. So I have 7 students here, and I can see 7 records here. And the denominator is what I set when I went up to data entry and student enrollment. So that is where my 100% is coming from, and I can verify it by looking at the information. So again, very quick way to meet that requirement. Heading back up to the Bridge tab, I'm going to hover over 6th grade career cluster inventory. Again, remember they have the opportunity to do 48 question version or the 80 question version. And so, again, Report name repeated at the top, school name repeated at the top. Here, it tells you exactly what you're looking at. Percent of sixth graders who have completed one version or the other version, and my percent of students completed at this time is 28.57. It shows that I have 2 students that have completed it out of my 7, and my table below verifies that information. So 7 records, there's my 7 records, 2 completed. How do I know? Because I can see the dates when those 2 actually completed the information. And then the last column, I can see the status codes. And here, there are actually 3 status codes. It's either C for complete, yes, you've done it all, you've saved it to your portfolio. P for partial, you started it, but you didn't finish it. And N for no progress, there has been no activity here yet. All right, pretty straightforward for you guys. So again, this is real-time information as your students are going through the system, and let's say that you're in class and you're walking around with your iPad. If you hit refresh, it will automatically show the new information right then and right there. So there's no need to wait 24 hours to see what you are desiring to view. Going back up to Bridge, 7th graders that have done reality check or interest profiler. Again, very similar setup. Name of your report. First, you can see what the report includes. You'll see your percentage. You'll see how many students have completed it, whatever you said your enrollment was, and you'll see the printout of exactly that information. And if you ever wanted to just have this, a tangible copy of this, you can always click on print in the upper right-hand corner, and it'll give you that exact report and have the name of your school at the top so that you can submit this to someone who might need physical documentation. That's a very good question, Viewer 104. Are these reports run for just the current year, or can I customize the date? For this particular element, it is for the current year. However, if you wanted to see previous reports or to run a report for a different set of years for the same cohort of students, you could actually do that using the Reports tab, which would allow you to calibrate a particular report. And I would encourage you to view the webinar where I talk to the returning users, as I do go over that in length on how to run a report on a previous set of years. But yes, you do have that opportunity to do so. And so going back up to the Bridge tab, the last one that I want to show you, because again, they all look very similar, I want to show you the 8th grade course planner individual graduation plan report. And again, just to remind you that this is counting the number of verifications. Okay? So when you check off yes, that's what this is counting. All right. So I hope you guys found that to be pretty straightforward. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So now that I keep talking about creating portfolios, I want to show how you can actually do exactly that. So I'm going to now head over to the Portfolios and Groups tab. And when I hover over the Portfolios and Groups tab, in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see that it says Add Portfolios. I can add one individual portfolio, or I can upload several portfolios. So I'm going to start with Add One Portfolio. And so when I add one portfolio for a student, there are certain elements that are denoted by red asterisks indicating that these are a part of the minimum requirements. And so I will have to implement a username for my students. When I make a username inside of GCIS, it needs to be a minimum of 6 characters, and it has to be unique in the entire state. Okay? And so what several of my school districts have decided to do is to use this popular username, which is actually the student's last name followed by their lunch ID. You can do first initial, last initial, and a 6-digit birthday. Whatever you can think of, I would encourage you to include some type of unique identifier so that we can differentiate one student from another student. All right. So this person's last name is Gordon, and here's that student's lunch number. So again, it has to be unique in the state. The more characters you string together, the less likely it is already taken. When you create passwords, passwords must have a minimum of 8 characters. There needs to be 1 capital letter, 1 lowercase letter, and a number. With your password could be your student's last name followed by their 6-digit birthday. It could be a capital first initial, lowercase last initial, and the birthday. I have actually had a lot of schools that say, well, hey, can I just set the same password for all of my students? And the answer to that is yes. So several are using the actual word password 1 as a password for the students. And so you get to decide what that information is. And so I'm going to go ahead and include this student's information. And what is not denoted by 2 red asterisks, but I do encourage you to include because it helps with your report, is that graduation year. Now, let me point out, when you set up an individual portfolio for a student, you are only creating a temporary password. Again, this is only a temporary password. So your students will be asked to change their password once they log into the system. Now, if you have an idea of what you wanted all of the students' passwords to be, then I would encourage you to type in something that you don't want it to be, so that they'll have to change it to the correct format. So if you wanted password 1 to be the permanent password, I'd encourage you to type in password 2. And so when this student logs in with the username and the password, it will say, okay, what is your permanent password? And they will type in password 1. It'll say, verify your permanent password, and they will retype password 1, and they will then go forward with navigating through the system. And someone asked, could I repeat the requirements for the password? A password needs to be a minimum of 8 characters. It needs to include a capital letter, a lowercase letter, and a number. Someone asked, if we do not fill in all of these parts of the portfolio, will the students be prompted to complete them in their first login? The items that are denoted by the red asterisk and the graduation year, I would encourage you to do that at a minimum. They can go back and populate in their address and any other information they want to at a later time. I will also encourage you, if you know their GTID, or if you have a school code that's unique to that student, you can go ahead and drop that into the unique identifier as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add my student. And if I wanted to verify that that student's portfolio, in fact, did take, then what I would do is I would go up to Portfolios and Groups, and I could click on Search Portfolios, and it'll actually take me to this very page where we are right now. And so this student's last name was Gordon, and I have 4 ways in which I can search for that student. I also can choose what task I plan to do, and I'm just going to do all. So when I type in G, I will see that that student's portfolio is in fact there. Now, you can also, if you would like to, you can upload students' portfolios in batches, which requires an Excel spreadsheet. And this Excel spreadsheet is available here. And someone is asking, do we have to do this process for each student, or is there a way to make portfolios for each student as once? Perfect question, perfect timing. So you have an opportunity to upload portfolios in batches. So on the Portfolios and Groups tab, it's called Upload Several Portfolios. And you will click on the Portfolio Upload template. And when you click on that template, it will allow you to open an Excel spreadsheet. And I actually already have one opened here at the bottom, so I'll go ahead and use that for my purposes. Can you guys see that on your screen, the spreadsheet? Excellent, excellent. So when I do my spreadsheet, there are two different colored columns on our spreadsheet. And the ones that are highlighted in green are required. These are the same ones that would have been denoted with the red asterisk. So columns A, B, C, and E are required at a minimum to upload portfolios for your students. And remember, we talked about the importance of having the grad year. I would also throw in column F. So what you could theoretically do is you can go to your SIS and pull a report of your students' information and copy and paste that information from that particular spreadsheet to this spreadsheet. And what that does is it reduces the opportunity for you to kind of cross up students. So having a student's name on one row and then having their student ID on another row. And so by copying and pasting, you can bring that information over to the spreadsheet, fill it out, and be able to upload this information. And so I'm going to go ahead and save this information on my desktop, and I'm going to go back to the main screen. I'm going to click on Choose File, and if you were in IE or Firefox, we'll actually say Browse. And I'm going to pull that spreadsheet, and I'm going to click on Trial Run. I'm going to click on Upload Portfolios after doing Trial Run, and what you will see is for my student that I've added, I got an error code. And so if I have at least one error code in my spreadsheet, none of the students will actually upload into the system. So you want to make sure that your spreadsheet is free of errors. And to do that, you can click on status code to see what each one of those mean. Okay? So what I would do is I would go back to my spreadsheet and I would actually fill in all of my students' information. So let me quickly do that for you. All right, so I've saved my spreadsheet. I'm now going to click Upload Portfolios. Choose File. Click on my spreadsheet. Upload Portfolios, and now you'll see that my spreadsheet is error-free because I fixed my errors. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck Trial Run, choose File, select my spreadsheet, upload portfolios, and you'll see that it says that I've successfully added 2 portfolios, to my roster. And if I wanted to verify that those students, in fact, are there, I'm going to go up to Portfolios and Groups, search Portfolios. I'm going to select all users in Site. I'm going to click on Do All Portfolio Tasks. And for my last two students, I think their last names were, one was Gordon. All right, so there's Sydney. And then my other one, last name was First. So my students, in fact, are there. I know that we have hit time because we've shared a lot of really great information with you guys today. I do want to let you know that today's presentation is recorded, and you will have an opportunity to review the content that we've covered. I would also encourage you to, again, visit our YouTube page, as it contains other webinars that will help you, again, to implement GCIS successfully at your school. We will also record a couple of other webinars that will focus specifically on specific functions such as uploading your portfolios or creating staff accounts or even running your bridge report so that you can see that information. And so we want to make sure that we put you into the best situation so that you guys can be successful. I'm going to go ahead and suspend recording right now.